Chapter 6. Who's Pete? I asked again. Is that the guy with the hockey mask? Everybody laughed, but it sounded sort of phony. Pete's not a character in the movie, Anita told me. He's real. Real? I said. Who is he? No one answered right away. The other girls glanced at each other. They wouldn't look me in the eye. They were just trying to scare me, I told myself. Don't panic. Wait for the facts. The 10th is almost here, Chris whispered. 1 week from tonight. The 10th? Not that again. What's going on? I demanded. What's happening on the 10th? Silence. Why won't anybody tell me? I wailed. Still the girls kept quiet. I watched their faces in the gray-blue light of the TV. She'll have to find out sooner or later, Anita said. Tell me, I insisted. It's not fair to keep it from her, Chris said. Another silence. Sarah stood up and got a candle. She lit it and placed it on the floor of the middle of the semicircle. She switched off the TV. Then Anita spoke. Pete was a boy who lived in Shadyside a long, long time ago, she said in a low voice. He died on his 12th birthday. He died in the Fair Street woods. The candlelight flickered across the girls' faces. They had probably heard the story of Pete 1,000 times before, I guessed, but it still held them spellbound. No one knows how he died, Anita went on. His body was found one morning, all shriveled up. His parents gave him a funeral. They buried him in the cemetery. They thought that was the end of Pete. But 1 year later, 1 year to a day after Pete died, some kids were playing hide and seek in the Fair Street woods. All of a sudden, a girl started screaming. It's Pete, she shrieked. I saw Pete. The kids ran screaming out of the woods. Pete had been playing hide and seek with them. Anita paused for a long moment. One boy left that game completely changed. He began to stay up late at night, howling like an animal. He ran off by himself into the woods. No one knew what he did there, but they knew the boy was not the same. Exactly 1 year later, the boy seemed to snap out of it. He stopped going out at night. He stopped going outside at all. He was too scared. The boy stayed in bed all day, shaking. His eyes never blinked. He held them wide open all the time, as if he were always terrified. And overnight, his hair had turned from dark brown to white. He looked like an old man. A doctor came to examine him. The boy told the doctor that Pete tagged him in the game, and then got to control his body every night. For 1 year, Pete had made the boy do these gross, disgusting things. Pete even made the boy sleep in the cemetery sometimes. Then Pete left. No one believed the boy, of course. But then the same thing happened to another kid in town, and the next year another. People began to get scared. Soon, no children were ever allowed to play in the Fair Street woods, but that didn't stop Pete. The next year, when no children came to play hide and seek on Pete's birthday, Pete got angry. Pete got very angry, and bad things started to happen. One girl looked in the mirror and saw her face rotting away. Her skin was all green and her teeth were black. Another kid kept smelling something so putrid that he couldn't eat. Every time he tried, he would gag. He kept getting thinner and thinner. Some kids' pets disappeared. Some kids heard a boy yelling, "Ready or not, here I come," over and over until they almost went crazy. No one could say for sure that Pete caused the bad things to happen, but they stopped when the kids finally returned to the woods for the game. Anita stared at Randy with a serious expression on her face. Now, every year on the 10th of June, we all celebrate Pete's birthday. We go into the Fair Street woods and play hide and seek. Pete is it. The first person Pete tags is the loser. Pete takes over his body for the rest of the year. That kid has to watch while Pete does whatever he wants every single night. Pete wants a body to live in, a real, live body. He doesn't want to be a ghost. He wants to be alive. Every year he takes a new kid's body. This year it's going to be one of us. Not one of us moved. I watched the candlelight play on Anita's face. Maybe she was pretending, but she looked scared. It's just a story, I thought to myself. It has to be. And I thought Pete was some super popular kid at Shadyside Middle School. Sarah broke the silence. That's what the legend says anyway. Everyone stared at me, waiting for my reaction. Wow, I said. That's a good story, I guess. It's true, Anita insisted. On June the 10th, Pete is going to attack someone we know. Maybe one of us. I hope it's not me, Chris said. I heard Pete makes you run through the woods all night long. He keeps you up all night so you're really tired the next day. Chris was such a ditz. Carl gave her a punch on the shoulder. That's not so scary, I commented. Well, I heard he kills animals and eats them, Sarah said. Remember the time Jeff Walker's dog disappeared? A lot of people thought Pete got him. Ew. I was starting to feel a little sick. Anita pulled a strand of her brown hair out of her mouth. I could tell she believed in Pete and was afraid of him. He goes to the cemetery at night and the Fear Street woods. He howls like an animal. He becomes wild. When our grandfather was a kid, his best friend got attacked, Chris told me. When the year was over, he went crazy. He ended up in an insane asylum. Kara rolled her eyes. Only you would fall for Grandpa's old stories, Chris. It's true, Chris insisted. My older sister played a few years ago, Anita put in. She said that after the game, this one girl's hair turned completely white, just like in the legend. She looked like a little old lady. I heard about a boy who stopped talking completely, Sarah said. Pete took over his body, and the boy never said another word. He just wandered the streets. His jaw shook and his eyes rolled around in his head. He never recovered. The things Pete made him do were so terrible, Anita added. So horrible, he couldn't talk about it. He couldn't talk at all. How awful, I thought. Panic rose in my throat. I pushed it down. Facts, I told myself. These are just stories. You need facts. Megan touched my arm and looked me straight in the eye now. The thing is, Randy, you're in more danger than the rest of us. That prickly feeling on the back of my neck turned. I am? Why? She leaned forward and whispered in a strange, low voice. Because Pete likes new kids. That's why. The candle flickered, then went out. A scream cut through the darkness.